So welcome today. We're going to, as Doug said, we're going to talk about cybersecurity and tech safety for everybody. And the reason we wanted everyone to be here today was because we all are adults in this world and we all have emails, especially school email accounts. And after we did kind of a cybersecurity assessment of what we're doing and how we have backup systems in place, actually email and actually staff email was our biggest, kind of our weakest point. And so that's one of the reasons we're having this training today, to make sure everybody's on the same page and knows how to protect themselves and protect the school information as well. It's becoming a big issue in these days, cybersecurity. I don't know if you guys have heard, but like, I know in October, November, Baltimore City schools got hit by a huge ransomware attack where basically hackers took their whole network hostage, and they blackmailed the school for asking for millions of dollars before they would release the student data and all the records. And the school said no, but they had to rebuild the network again from scratch, which took millions of dollars, and the FBI was involved and all kinds of, and it took over a month to get everything back up and running. So it's a huge issue, especially with schools right now. So we're going to talk about different threats today, what they are, what the different like jargon and language is. And then we're going to talk about also ways you could be a little more proactive and things to look for to make sure you are protected. And this goes for your personal stuff as well. So, and it doesn't matter what type of device you are using, if it's a phone, if it's a Chromebook, if it's a laptop, if it's a Mac, all of these kind of rules will apply today. So to get us started today, what we're going to do first is kind of, again, assess what you already know, or to at least let yourself know what you already know. So what we're going to do today is we are going to actually play a little game. We're going to do a Kahoot game. And I don't know if everybody sees my screen over here. This is Kahoot. So if you go to this website, it's www.kahoot.it. And you could type in this PIN code, which is 2235036. It'll ask you to enter your name. You can use your real name or a made up name. It doesn't matter. Make sure it's school appropriate though. You know, Sepsi, I'm talking to you. And we will play, we have a few short questions we're going to ask to see if you know some basic information. Oh, look, Baker Mayfield is joining us today. Sharp. One of the Jasons. I love it. I'll give a few seconds. And if you can't get on, that's fine too. You could just follow along. We do Kahoots a lot with the kids, so it's good for you to experience what the kids go through, especially if you're not in the classroom full time. Another Jason. Sam was the hero. That's got to be Sepsi. Brownie the elf. Oh. Just a guy. Oh, funny. Patty with the Y. Oh. All right. We're going to start the game. This little code will still be at the top if you're still getting on, or it'll be on the side. But I think we have 10 or less questions. So we'll get started with those in a second. Looks like people are still coming in. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So on your screen, you'll see today is our tech safety notes. Our first question: what devices get viruses? What devices? Is it Apple computers, tablets, smartphones, or Windows computers? All right. So they were all correct. All devices get viruses. So good job for answering that one. Good job, everyone. Our next question is, how many new viruses are created every single month? Take a guess. How many new computer viruses do you think are created each month? Yeah, it's about 6,000 every single month. So your antivirus software is doing a lot of work. Okay, good job. The next one is, how do you keep your operating system updated on your device? Is it doing a hard shutdown? Oh, I didn't finish the answer. Restart your computer, let the installs update, put your computer to sleep, or just hope and pray. I know some of you guys are doing that one. Good job. Restart your computer, let the updates install. Very good. How do you get ransomware viruses? Is it by playing games online? Is it by having an email account, by clicking on a link in a shady email, or filling out online forms? Good job. Yeah, it's usually by clicking on a link in an email. That's the typical way. There's also other ways, but yeah, typically that's how you do it. Good job. Which of the passwords below is the strongest? Good job. If you have a computer virus, how do you know you have a computer virus? Is it because your computer will slow down? Will it damage your operating system? Will it delete or corrupt files and documents? Or will it damage your keyboard and touchpad? Yeah, so yeah, it'll do all of those three things there. It won't hurt any of the hardware itself, but it will damage software and documents and files on your computer, potentially. How are viruses created? We're talking computer viruses here, not biological viruses. Do they spawn and create new viruses? Do they mutate from biological viruses? Is it from old computer programs, or is it by hacker or humans? Hackers are humans, by the way, in case you didn't know that. Yes, good job. All computer viruses are man-made. And what little bits of data are always dropped on your computer when you go to any website? Is it adware, keyloggers, cookies, or spit? Spit is a techie term, actually. Yes, cookies. Very good. An email claiming to be from a company to scam a user into sharing your private information is used in identity theft. What is that called? Is it phishing, spam, spit, or spam? Phishing, very good. And our last question, what is the antivirus software on your school computer? Do you know the name of it? Is it Microsoft Security Essentials? Is it Norton, McAfee, or Kaspersky? Yeah, so if you have a Windows computer, it's Microsoft Security Essentials, which is part of Windows 10 operating system. If you have a Mac, I think Sepsi put something else on your computers, but so we're gonna, if you did well at this, awesome, very good job. But we're gonna make sure everybody is up to date with all of these terms and also some more that we didn't include on this. So let me switch my screen. I'm gonna stop this. So thank you for playing Kahoot, little fun game today. And I'm gonna share my screen here. And Sepsi and I are both gonna present today about tech safety in general. So why is tech safety important? Because again, it's a big threat, and there's a lot of things that are sent through email, which all of us have email on our phones, on tablets, on Chromebooks, on desktops, on laptops. So we want to make sure you're protected and making good choices, because I've had a lot of family and friends over the years who have made bad choices about all this stuff, and have gotten into trouble and gotten scammed and had identity theft happen. So we want to make sure you're protecting yourself. We also want to make sure that you know at least as much as the high school kids do, because this is actually the unit I actually teach the 9th graders during April and May. So we expect the kids to know this stuff, and we want to have that same expectation for our staff as well. Okay, and again, cyber threats are becoming more and more common, so we want to make sure everybody kind of understands how to protect not only your stuff, but the school's stuff as well. Okay. And if you have any questions through this, please feel free to ask a question. Okay.
Right. So our agenda today is going to be first to discuss the different types of risk. So we'll look at malware, spam, cookies, adware, and we're finally going to finish up with how to mitigate risk through both online and password safety.
So let's start. What is, you might have heard this term a lot over and on the internet and news articles, but malware is kind of the general term for basically any kind of cyber threat. It's as our English teachers could tell you, mal is Latin for bad or evil, and ware is part of the word software. So it literally means bad or evil software. And it's purpose built to disrupt, disable, or damage a system and files, or to steal information in some way. Okay, so we're going to talk about type of risks that there's 3 major categories of malware. There's viruses, spyware, and ransomware, and they're a little different. They do slightly different things, and they have different goals.
So what is a computer virus? It's a program that gets installed on your computer without your knowledge that's going to run against your wishes, basically.
Yes.
And what are the harmful consequences? It's going to possibly cause slowdowns. It's going to corrupt or delete your data, your files, and the virus can actually take control of your computer device and leave you pretty much stranded.
Some facts about computer viruses. Again, all computer viruses are man-made. And actually the people who've made them over the years has changed. They originally were created by hobbyists and kind of nerds who were just wanted to show how smart they were and kind of like goof on other people or to get back at other people, kind of revenge scenario things. Now most computer viruses are made by mafia organizations, criminal organizations that hire hackers to infect computers and devices purposely, with the goal of stealing your identity or stealing your money in some way, or getting money in some way. It's a huge money-making operation now. So it's less like nuisance viruses and more damaging viruses now. All viruses, most viruses, I want to say about 95% of the viruses out there need you to do something in order to get infected. So that's why vigilance is important. Again, 6,000 new viruses are created on average every single month. Any device that's connected to the internet or to another device, it could potentially get a virus. And that includes things that you don't even consider a computer, like your gaming consoles, like if you got an Echo device or a smart assistant or something like that for Christmas, those could potentially get viruses. Even things like, they call them program logical computers that basically don't have a monitor or a keyboard, like things that run lighting systems or elevator systems in big buildings. Those could all potentially get viruses as well. And most viruses, I'm going to say 99.999% of them will not damage your hardware itself, only the software on your computer. There are a few types of viruses that will turn off your fans and temperature controllers on your computer and cause your computer to overheat. In my 25 years of working with computers, I've never actually seen that type of virus. I've only heard of it. They're very rare. So they will not damage the hardware itself, only the software. All right, so the first type of virus we have is called a self-replicating virus. And what it does is it's a breeder. It just makes a copy of itself and copy of itself. It really doesn't do anything on the computer. It's just taken up space. But eventually it's going to take up so much space that you can't do anything else on your computer, and your computer will just like be really slow and you can't do anything. That's usually one of the biggest signs that you might have a virus or some other risk, is if your computer is running super slow and you can't do anything. So self-replicating viruses are a simple but like headachy nuisance kind of virus. One of the biggest types of self-replicating viruses are worms. Worms basically travel, not just on your computer, but and they make copies of themselves on your computer, but they travel through your email automatically to other people in your address book. And they just travel and they cause network traffic jams, which is annoying. Most of our newer routers, wireless routers and switches that we have on networks now will stop most worm behavior, but some of the worms are very sophisticated and we'll get by them sometimes. Consequences of having worms on a network is they tend not to cause damage to the code or files on your computer, but rather they slow down everything. So nothing could be done on it, not just your computer, but the whole network. And they're used a lot of times in what is called a DOS attack or denial of service attack. We've actually seen this, like when we've a few years ago when we were trying to do air testing or park testing, or even when we've done map testing, sometimes it won't work because the system's down. It's down because they're getting attacked by worms on their network because some kid out there doesn't want to take the map test and they're causing a denial of service on that specific server. And it happens. And that, again, that's what a denial of service attack is as well. Yeah, to shut down a whole website. The group Anonymous will use denial of service attacks a lot to target specific groups. There's a lot of good stories about that, but yeah, kids are also getting smart to this, and they're using the technology that Anonymous uses to shut down school services sometimes. Trojan viruses are named, our history teachers know, it's named after the Trojan horse in Greek mythology. Ask a social studies teacher if you're not sure. But basically, it's a file that's pretending to be one thing, but tricks you to trick you into installing it on your computer. And when you install it on your computer, you actually loaded a virus to your computer instead. These used to happen a lot when people were using more like Kazaa or LimeWire or torrent sites to download music and movies illegally. It could still happen. You could definitely get a Trojan virus. In fact, I remember years ago, somebody at the lower school got a Trojan virus from downloading Christian clip art for their Sunday school class. And they also thought they were just downloading a picture. They downloaded a Trojan virus to their computer as well. So it could be hidden as anything. But basically what happens to it is they could sometimes be really just annoying, or they could be very malicious. I had one about 20 years ago that deleted every file on my computer. It was extremely annoying. And some will just like delete part of your operating system so you can't use it anymore, or you have to like reinstall all your software on your computer. Some Trojan viruses will actually not do anything to the computer itself, but open a back door so that a hacker could take control of your computer and use it to send out worms or denial of service attacks. So it turns your computer almost into like a slave computer that it uses to do big internet attacks. And then they're extremely hard to clean off the computer because sometimes they're self-replicating. So if you think you delete everything, you restart your computer, it comes back. So the only way to clean Trojan viruses usually is to re-image your computer, which means that we're going to erase everything and start from day one, which takes time. And it also means anything that's not backed up to like Google Drive or SharePoint or OneDrive is going to be lost on your device. So that's why it's important to back up your files whenever you can, because some viruses, that's the only thing we could do is re-image it. And that means you're going to lose all your stuff unless it's backed up.
So on to ransomware. What is it? It's a form of malicious software or malware, as Sally discussed at the beginning, that usually denies you access to your data once it takes control. And it's called ransomware because the attacker will then demand some sort of ransom. And they're going to promise that once you pay, they'll go ahead and restore access. That always doesn't happen, though. That's the problem. So how do you get ransomware on your devices? So one of the most common delivery systems to get a ransomware virus on your system is a pop-up. It could also be a link or an email, basically pretending to be a file that you're going to click on and trust. And once you've downloaded that and you've run that, it can then take over your computer, and we'll look at a few screenshots or examples of that next.
Yeah.
So these types of screenshots, like this would pop up, and usually it can't be closed, and it's going to threaten that your data will be lost if you don't comply. And of course, you have to call them up and give them money.
Yeah, and they are not legit. So don't fall for their shenanigans. Oh. This is another one we've seen a lot. I've had a few older family members fall for this one, where like, oh yeah, your computer's out of date, you need to update Windows. And they put it, and it looks like Microsoft is like asking them to like upgrade, and they want a couple $100, and you have to give your credit card information to them. Don't do it. Microsoft will not ask you for this legitly, and neither will Apple or any other vendor.
No, and in fact, in this case, my mom fell for something like this and spent a couple $100. So yeah, they'll try to convince you that they're legitimate. Here it's saying that, like Sally said, it's a Microsoft warning. It's going to give some fancy error code. And, it's going to prey on the fact that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I better call up. So here you get ransomware, so kindly letting you know that the ransomware has found ransomware. I don't know if you can see that we found ransomware. So how convenient. And it's going to ask you to call the technician at Microsoft. Obviously, like Sally said, this is a scam, but in the moment, when you've got work to do and you're busy and you're sort of afraid of losing your data, a lot of people are going to call and hand over their credit card number. And at that point, they can charge that several times, and it causes a huge problem. But as I said before, that's no guarantee of anything. You can pay and they can still do nothing to remove this from your system. What we would do is restart your computer in safe mode so that this can't relaunch. And then we run a program like Malwarebytes to clear this off. But yeah, absolutely, this is a scam.
And one question I saw in the chat was, can a virus go to OneDrive or SharePoint or even Google Drive? So what those services are, so OneDrive and SharePoint are all owned by Microsoft, and Google Drive is owned by Google. And you're actually saving your files to their computers somewhere in the world, and they're backed up a couple dozen times around the world, just in case. But their security is way better than what we have. So I would trust any of their servers to be very well protected against viruses. If a virus did end up on there, it would be shut down almost immediately. So I would trust more of the cloud storage spaces to save files, because you can even have a virus on a flash drive or USB pen or an external hard drive. Or even an SD card, you could have a virus on those, but it's very unlikely that you would have one on Google Drive or OneDrive or SharePoint. Good question. All right, the next one is category of threats are spyware. And spyware is basically software that you really won't know is there because it's been somehow downloaded to your computer, and it's being very secretive and spying on you, trying to gather your information. And the type of information it's looking for is any credit card information, banking information, usernames, password list, anything like that. Anything especially for identity theft purposes. And usually spyware you get because it's bundled with something good. So you think you're playing a cool game online, or you think you're downloading a cool little app. And the majority of the tools out on the internet are actually legit and do not have spyware associated with it. But it's hard to tell the good ones from the bad ones and the shady ones. So you do have to be careful. If you're not sure, look at the reviews before you download any new apps to your phone or to your tablet. Usually Google and Apple do a pretty good job in their app stores to make sure that any apps have to be really vetted to make sure that they don't contain any risks. But there is a potential for something to slide past them. You're more susceptible if you're downloading stuff directly from a website or from and so if you're not sure if something's good, ask me or Sepsi or Jim or Amrata. We'll be glad to check it out for you. I know I use a website called CNET, which helps. It's a tech website, and I look up a lot of applications or tools on there to see how well rated they are, if they're shady or not, just to make sure that they're a little more legit. And again, if you're using especially a personal device, I would very much caution against illegally downloading any music, movies, or software. You are significantly higher risk to get viruses, and especially spyware. And you have no recourse. So if you download a movie illegally from a website, and you get a virus or spyware during that download, you can't even complain because you were doing something illegally to begin with. So just be very cautious about some of the shadier things that you could do on the internet. I wouldn't do it. I would do it with extreme caution. Keyloggers are another type of spyware. And it's basically something that, again, is sitting silently, but it's almost like having a video camera looking at your keyboard. And it's going to record every single thing that you type into any program. And most of that is going to be really boring, but what if you have to type in a password? What if you have to type in your credit card information to buy something? What if you have to type in like your address and all that other good stuff that that is sensitive information that could potentially be used in identity theft. So that's what they're looking for. And I will tell you what's interesting about this, because I have this discussion with parents a lot, is a lot of the like net nanny software out there that kind of keeps track of what shenanigans kids are up to on the internet at home. They use a keylogger like service to keep track of what kids are typing in on certain websites. So sometimes good software looks potentially threatening at certain times as well. So you have to, again, make sure you're picking a good one that is not going to also steal your identity at the same time. Another type of spyware is adware, and adware is actually not necessarily bad most of the time. What it is, it's usually, if you, some websites, some shadier websites will actually show you ads or a lot of pop-ups, and force you to change the home page on your browser and stuff like that when you go to that website. It used to happen more a couple years ago. Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge and Firefox have upgraded enough so that doesn't happen as often anymore. But usually that's when you can't change your home page to what you want it to be. In Google Chrome, it would take you to some random website instead. That's because of things like adware or spyware on your computer. Cookies, on the other hand, and we're talking about not real cookies, regular cookies are delicious, but internet cookies are basically whenever you go to any website, it could be any website, Target, Amazon, Google Drive, whatever. It's actually dropping kind of like breadcrumbs on your computer in the shape of cookies. And basically it's made to, when you go back to that website, it's going to remember you. So when you go back to Amazon, they know what I was searching for last time. They know my name. They know like what things I like to buy and what I bought last time, and do I want more of that? It's kind of like shopping at Giant Eagle with your, Giant Eagle card, and then it rewards you by gives you certain types of coupons that you might like, or gives you fuel perks. So it's kind of the same idea. But cookies are always dropped on your computer, and actually a law went into effect last year, which is why when you go to a website for the first time, you might get a notice about the cookie saying, hey, this website drops cookies on your device. And they have to, by law, tell you that information. Both the European Union and the United States have a law about that now. So now they do it for everybody on every device, has to be okay with that, accept those terms. Most of the time, 99% of cookies are totally fine, and they are actually helpful when you're returning back to a website. However, some shadier websites might drop cookies that also have spyware in them. So you do have to be cautious about going to some of the shadier websites in the world. And what I mean by shady is any website that it has to do with pornography, gambling, any kind of hate kind of thing on it, all shady. Anything where you're basically getting something for free that you should be paying for, like pirated movies or music or stuff like that. So just again, caution on the side of security when you can, just to make sure you're not getting cookies that you don't want on your computer.
So on to phishing. Phishing is primarily going to be an email, could be a text message, but it's usually an email that's going to falsely claim to be some sort of legitimate business or an enterprise that's going to attempt to scam you out of personal information that can be used against you for identity theft. So they may try to steal your passwords, account numbers, social security numbers, and once they get that, they can gain access to a lot of your different accounts, your bank account, and email addresses and things like that get into your emails. So how do you avoid them? You never want to click on an email to a web service you've already had a subscription to. That's never going to happen. A legitimate business is never going to come out and ask you for information that, when you think about it, they already have. Why would they ask? What you want to do is make sure that you report phishing scams as spam. And the next screen, we're going to show you how you do that. And if you're not sure if something is phishing, so if you get an email and you're like, oh, I don't really know, you can always call the company and ask, or as Sally alluded to, give one of us, an email or a call, and we'll help you out.
And I've actually done that, in my life before Lawrence, more than 20 years ago. I used to work in a key bank, and before that at a credit card company. And so I know a lot about this stuff because people even 20 years ago were doing stuff like this. But as somebody who used to work at a credit card, I would never ask you for your password or even your account number. I might ask you to verify the last 3 digits to make sure we're looking at the same thing. Or I might ask you to verify what is your zip code, or what are the last 4 digits of your social security number, to make sure it's matching what's on my system. But I would never ask for your username, your account number, your password. Never. Now, me and Sepsi might ask you for that information when we're setting up a new computer for you. And the only reason we do that is so that we don't have to reset your password while we're setting up a new computer for you. So that's the only time we will personally ask you for your password and stuff at school, is when we're setting up a new device for you, or re-imaging your device like Murata will do for you. But like I got an email last year, sometime early last year, and it looked like it was from KeyBank, but it just didn't look right to me. So I called them, and I just called their customer service line, and I asked, hey, is this a legit thing? Because it looked a little shady to me. And they, after going through a few things, they were like, no, that is totally not legit. Thank you for calling. So they put an alert out to all their customers saying, please don't click on those things. So it's good to report those things to make sure that they are, to see if they're legit or not, just to make sure. It's better to be safe than sorry. And
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Here's a screenshot of Gmail, and you could see up at the top there is the button you'd click to basically report something as spam. And once it does that, it'll basically affect that organizationally. So once you choose something as spam, basically it's going to be tagged for the whole organization.
And it looks, again, like a little stop sign with an exclamation point in it. Now, you don't want to do this for real emails, because the consequence of marking something as spam when it's really not spam is that Google will start pushing everything from that email into spam for all the users in our organization. So for instance, if somebody marked one of Doug's emails as spam, then it would not just do it for that person, but for almost the rest of us as well. So just make sure you're not doing it for legit emails. And if you report it as not spam, like a parent email, if you go to your spam inbox and find a parent email that went there accidentally, you could report it as not spam, so it'll start going into the regular inbox. And again, that not just helps you, but it helps us organizationally as well.
And again, if you do have a question, you can ask Jim, ask Sophia, ask Sally or I or Jason, and we'll help you out with that. So in terms of what you're looking for, you're going to look for something that says they've noticed suspicious activity or some odd login attempts. You're going to be looking for things that say there's a problem with your account and you need to log in or make a payment quickly today. They might ask you to confirm some personal information or give you a link to something helpful. I'll give you a couple examples in a second, but it could include a fake invoice. It can even, ask you to make a payment or claim an award, or, you've won a prize, or you get some sort of great refund, things like that.
Yeah, I just saw one online last night. People are getting fake emails that looks like it's from the IRS about their, the stimulus package or whatever like that. And but they're fake. And again, the IRS is not going to ask for information they already have. Most of the time they will not do anything online or through an email. They will do it through a phone call. So don't fall for those shenanigans related to the IRS.
Shenanigans out there. So here is an example where the user has been selected to receive a great deal on a loan. Stuff like this is relatively easy to say no to, but like it gets a little bit more complicated. So the next one is,
and actually, before we move on, one of the things that I always look at is where it's coming from, because it will give you a name over here, like in bold. But if you look right below that, it's coming from MTLLYGT. That is not a real person. It's random junk. And if you hit this little down arrow on it, it will actually show you the whole email it's coming from and where it's going to. And that's always interesting as well. So if it doesn't look legit, it will definitely look weird up here in the sender and receiver information. Another thing to look for on any of these shady emails, there's no signature at the bottom of where it's coming from. Like if I'm getting something from Google, it's gonna have like Google's logo, it's gonna have their copyright information, it's gonna have their address and all that other good stuff at the bottom. And all the text in the email will be selectable with your mouse. If you can't select the text with your mouse and it's just one big picture, but it's a picture of text, totally shady. They just want you to click on it and they're gonna probably download spyware while you're doing that.
So here, another example of a phishing email is, something that might look legitimate. It's all about a COVID-19 FAQ, and go ahead and download this, no problem. Again, a problem. And as Sally alluded to, if the email, they blanked it out on here, but if the email doesn't look familiar, if it looks a little shady, it's better not to open something like this up. All of your COVID-19.
Yeah, even the one that we got hit with a couple years ago, I think there was one from, I think Lou was one of the people who clicked on it. And there was one last year that looked like it was from Doug. But if you looked at the email address it was coming from, it was Doug or D Hamilton at lawrenceschool.org.com. And so that's not our email address structure. So that one to me was like a red flag, ding, ding, ding. Like that's not a legit email from Doug. So just that email sender and receiver is really a big warning sign if you really look at it closely.
Like I said, on that first one, it's easy to say no to a great loan. It might be easy to say no to a COVID-19, FAQ, but here it gets a little bit more dicey because, they're preying on your fears over your account security. So, basically to avoid your instinct to protect your account, that's what they're preying on. And it can be pretty scary. But again, Apple or no other legitimate company would ever ask you through an email to sign in and review your account, period.
And again, if I got something like this, I wouldn't click on the link, but I would go to my Apple account website and sign in and see if I got a message there. Like I wouldn't click on it in a link necessarily.
Right.
And again, any of these, if you're not sure of it, if it's legit or not, you could either call the customer service directly, or you could ask one of us, ask me, Sepsi, you could ask Murata, Jim, even Sophia, we'll be glad to be a second pair of eyes to look at it. So better to be safe than sorry for any of this stuff. Okay, and we have another example here.
This one's a little hard too, because if you're kind of, you got a lot of stuff to do and you open it up and you see a link to an invoice and you don't really read it carefully, it's easy to go ahead and click on that invoice. So it really is about taking the time to look at who it's from, making sure that you're expecting something like this before you go ahead and start clicking. I mean, it's hard to do because we're all busy and we want to go ahead and get through emails, but you've got to look through and make sure that it's legitimate.
Right. And especially if if you typically don't work with people in Malaysia, then maybe this would be a red flag as well to make sure. And also look at where it's going to. It's going to undisclosed recipients. That means it's going to more than just you. So again, that should be another red flag going up. And again, unless it's somebody you trust, I wouldn't open attachments for sure.
So this would be an example of a completely legitimate email. Just informing the user that another device was logged in. This could happen if Sally and I are, like she said, setting up a new device for you or dealing with a tech issue. But looking at the top, it's from Google. And Sally, if you go to the next slide, if I do click up there, it looks legitimate. It's a google.com. It's to that user. There's no odd .nets or .biz, anything like that. So you could still ask, but in a case like this, I would be fairly certain that this is something that I don't have to worry about.
But that's why, if I am setting up a new computer for you, I will tell you about it the day I'm doing it, so that if you get one of these messages, you don't change your password on me, and then I can get on your new computer. That's why Google will always let you know when you've signed in on a brand new device, just as a security measure. Netflix will do that now. I think Disney Plus and Hulu does that now, just to be, again, cautious. to make sure. I know my Netflix account got hacked like in October, and somebody in New York was actually using my Netflix account. So I had to go and work with their customer service to change it. So just make sure that you're not sharing your passwords or choosing something too easy as well.
So contrast those, legitimate Google emails with something like this that Sally got at one point. So again, this one's from a strange like .net address. The message is in French. She marked it as as spam, but again, when in doubt, don't open it.
But look who it's going to. It's going to missgarzarocks@aol.com. That's not my email account. My email address is missgarzarocks@gmail.com, and it's going to NCCing me as well. That just looks weird. And then it's coming from a website from smartskiff.com, which looks shady, and it has these weird symbols up here. So yeah, anything like, again, you just have to really look at it cautiously and go with your gut. Usually Google will catch most of these and put it in your spam folder automatically for you. So just make sure, I go to my spam folder once in a great while, just to make sure there's nothing sneaking past there. That's good. But just making sure that, you're not like allowing these back in your inbox you don't want that to happen. Okay, the next type of threat we have is spam. And spam is just unwanted junk emails. I get a million junk emails like on a daily basis. And the kids ask me all the time, like, how do you stop getting spam? You don't. It's like if you have a house and a mailbox, you will get junk mail. You will get spam eventually if you have an email address. It's just the nature of having an email address. There's no way to stop it if you have an email address. So just know that. But luckily, Google and Microsoft and the other services have a pretty good spam filtering system now, and they are able to detect spam most of the time. There's also spam on instant messaging services. I know on my Pixel phone, they do a really good job. I get like spam text all the time, and they do a really good job of putting it in my spam folder, so I never see them unless I really want to go look for them. And there's even the spam filter in Facebook Messenger, in all kinds of other services as well. But you could also get spammed on video chatting sites, as we know from the Zoom bombings. Those are all kind of the price of using these services. You might get junk once in a while. So why do people send spam? First of all, it's easy. If I was a hacker with a little bit of programming knowledge, I could send probably a spam email out to 100,000 people in about 5 minutes. So it's very easy, it's cheap. There's no downside for them sending it, frankly. And they make money off of it. So I actually do the math with the kids in class when we do this. So if I send out 100,000 emails, and let's say based on an email I just saw in my my spam folder yesterday, selling cannabis gummies, okay? If the people who, there's been research done with this where 1% of the people who receive spam will actually buy what they're selling or click on the links, which is downloading and stealing your information on the down low. So if I have 1% of the people, of those 100,000 people I sent it to, want to buy my cannabis gummies for $25, I've just made $25,000. And do I have to actually send them cannabis gummies? No, I do not. I could send them fake gummies. I could send them a picture of gummies, or I could just steal their information and their identity, because they just gave me their credit card information and their address and usernames and all that kind of stuff. So I just not only took your $25, but I also stole your identity on top of it. So again, that's why people send spam. So your job is to be vigilant and not fall for the shenanigans in spam emails. Okay. All right, so now that we know some of the verbiage out there and the terms and the different types of risks, what are some ways we could minimize the risks as functioning people in our cyber society today. So the first thing we could do is make sure to mark spam emails in the spam in Gmail or any email service. That's actually reporting it to Google or Microsoft or whoever your email provider is. And that's actually important because they will go and try to trace those emails out to shut them down if they're really spamming emails. So clicking the spam folder, it also in our organization will tell Gmail, hey, anybody from this sender should really go to spam. So it does two things for us. And plus it gets it out of your inbox, which is a good thing. So that's one way you could protect against spammers. When you're signing up for new service, one of the tools that is used a lot of times is the CAPTCHA or reCAPTCHA, where you might have to type in these little words. And the reason we do this is called a Turing test after Alan Turing, if you know who he is. He's known as the father of artificial intelligence. But he basically, it's a question that a computer gives you that it can't answer itself. And so it's kind of almost like a paradoxical question. But what this also is doing when it gives you two words like this is it knows the answer to one of these words, like it knows what the real word is, but it doesn't know what the other word is. And what it's doing is it's helping to digitize books for people like our kids who have reading disabilities or visual disabilities, so they could read them on like archive.com or the Internet Archive or Google Books or other services out there. So it's actually doing two things. Some of the newer ones I've seen are picture-based. There's all kinds of different ones, but this is a test to make sure it's not a program signing up for an account. And that's important because that protects against spammers from writing programs that will automatically sign up for like 1,000, Gmail accounts at one time. They actually have to click on these individually, which takes too much time for a spammer.
So how do we prevent malware? The first thing we want to do is make sure that your operating system is up to date. We'll talk about this in a bit. You don't want to install any sort of software unless you really know what it is and what it's going to do. So, if something gets downloaded, don't just hit install unless you know. Again, ask us. And you want to make sure you're backing up your files to some sort of cloud service, whether it's your Google Drive, it could be OneDrive through Microsoft, it could be SharePoint, iCloud. You want to do that frequently, and once a lot of that stuff is set up, it's going to be automatic. It's not going to necessarily stop a malware attack, but it can make the damage caused by one a lot less severe or significant for you.
Yes.
So antivirus must-dos. You got to make sure that your antivirus software has both access to update itself and update its virus list so it can get the most up-to-date list of viruses. As Sally had said, 6,000 are released, and you've got to have things updated.
And basically how computer virus antivirus software works is it's much like biological vaccinations. You get a little bit of the code put on your computer during the update, and then if it sees that kind of code again, it will stop it from running. So it's very similar to how real vaccinations work for us physically, okay? So it's actually putting a little bit on your computer to protect against itself if it sees that code again. Now, what you don't want to do is have multiple antivirus softwares running on your computer. So don't have like Microsoft Security Essentials and Norton running at the same time. Why? Because it will slow down your computer like crazy, and it will also see each other as a virus because it has that code of the virus on it. So you don't have two antivirus software on your computer. It's awful.
So in terms of antivirus software for Windows, Sally has already discussed the security essentials through Microsoft. For the Mac, the actual Mac OS is fairly good at catching issues, but they actually do recommend installing something like Avast on a Mac, just to sort of hedge your bets a little bit.
Now, and just as so you know personally, for any personal devices you might have at home, Microsoft Security Essentials is actually part of Windows 10. It's free, or not, it's free, you paid for it as part of Windows 10. So and I gotta say, it's done a really good job, knock on wood, since we've started using it with Windows 7 or 8. We have not had any significant virus outbreaks. So the reason I like it, whenever you're looking at any antivirus software that you might want to purchase, because maybe your home computer has Norton or McAfee or Kaspersky, that's up to you. However, I've tried a lot of them over the years, and the kid, like I tell this to the kids, it's like some of them are like a helicopter mom. Like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? For everything you want to do, like it's overprotection. Like I want to like do what I want to do on the internet, and then if there's a problem, to let me know. And that's what Microsoft Security does, and that's what Apple antivirus does as well. So that's why we've chosen it. So it's not like in your face all the time, but you do have a responsibility for it, which is to keep your device updated. Because when you do your Windows updates or your Mac updates, you're actually updating the antivirus software as well. And when you restart your computer, you're actually then most protected against the newest viruses that it knows about. So that's why it's important to restart your computer on a regular basis. And we have the instructions on how to do that. So I'm actually gonna, oops, I'm gonna share my screen differently this time. Sorry. I'm going to go to this screen. So to update a Windows computer, you just would go to your start button down here in the corner. You would go to the settings, which is the gears. And then once you're on the settings page, if you go to update and security, your updates will be listed here. And I just updated this last night. So yeah, so it should be pretty good right now. But it will do this automatically typically. Now, there are some advanced options here on how to make sure that you have updates automatically. And I actually turned on notifications, so it will let me know, because this is my personal computer. It'll let me know when I need to restart my computer. So it's up to you how often but I just check it every now and then just to make sure it's updated. Sometimes for some of the bigger updates that need to happen, you might need to say yes, allow once in a great while, but otherwise it'll update in the background, and then it will automatically install itself when you restart your computer. And I will tell you, and I'm sure I've heard many of you guys I've heard this over the years, the more often you restart your computer during a week, the shorter the restart time will be. So it'll only take an extra 30 seconds or an extra minute, versus if you wait 6 months, Mr. K, and it will take you a couple hours to restart your computer, because it'll keep restarting multiple times. So just making sure you don't wait. At least 2 or 3 times a week is really important to make sure your computer is totally updated. So just make sure you're doing that. I restart my school computers every day just to make sure everything's tip top. And I was talking to Sepsi yesterday, and I'm like, restarting your computer is like taking out your trash and cleaning your kitchen sink before you go to bed. It just makes it easier the next morning. Everything's clean and nice, and nothing's stinking up the works and left open from 2 days ago, or empty files, or it just keeps everything clean on your computer so that only the necessary things are actually running.
And we will be sharing this presentation with you guys, so you will have this stuff. So this is just verifying that Windows is set up for auto updates. And Sally alluded to, one of the things with Windows auto updates, sometimes it doesn't always update, and it's good to occasionally go in and just make sure that all the updates are indeed getting updated. And Mac OS updates are here as well. And again, we'll be sharing this with you.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some risks or myths involved with computer viruses. This was actually from a headline from the Weekly World News. Do you guys remember that before it went out of business? They cannot spread to humans. Computer viruses cannot spread to humans. Don't believe Miss Sternad when she's lying to you about that. All right.
Macs don't get viruses. Not true. Macs can absolutely get viruses. One of the issues is that Macs really don't account for a lot of the market share. So the next slide is going to show you kind of what the market share is. So over 75% of all devices, computers, and the like are running either Android or Windows. So since over 75% of that market share is on those, the majority of threats are going to fall there as well. The next slide.
So if you look at Mac iOS is like cell phones and Mac OS is like Mac laptops, that's less than 7%. So no matter what you see in movies and TV shows, it's really only 7% of the world's devices. And therefore, they're just a smaller target for hackers. So therefore, hackers are not going to just write viruses for those devices. They're going to write them for Android devices and Windows because they're the biggest targets. And that doesn't make them any riskier, but like they're just going to get less viruses. And hackers actually use Linux machines more than anything. Linux is another operating system that is more customizable, and they're not going to infect themselves. So these are actually the safest computers, frankly. But yeah, so any of these devices could get a virus on them.
So in this map, I mean, I don't know, you can see the little tiny bit of red on there. Otherwise, the world is primarily Android or Windows. So again, following the money, scammers are going to focus on where the majority of operating system users are.
So another myth is I have antivirus software. I never have to worry about viruses on my computer. And that's actually not true. Your responsibility in it is that you need to make sure the antivirus software is updated and that it's running. I've actually seen a few very smart viruses over the years that actually disabled the antivirus software. They are very smart. They actually uninstalled the antivirus or they disabled it in some way. I haven't seen that in a couple of years, but like it does happen. And I equate this to having birth control. Birth control does not work if you don't use it. So it's the same with the antivirus software. You have to restart your computer, you have to update it in order to be truly protected, but it's still only 91 to 99% effective in protecting against the latest viruses. There might be a new virus that comes out today that Microsoft doesn't know about yet, or Apple doesn't know about yet, and you could get it. So it's just, you still have to, make good decisions. It's just one of the tools we use to combat against computer viruses. And the last myth is only computers get viruses and malware. And actually, that's not true. It could be any device. It could be anything that is known as a smart device. It could be your smart TV. It could be your Fire Stick. It could be, any Echo that you bought or Show or Google Assistant or whatever devices you have. Like I have smart light bulbs in my house. Those could get infected by a virus. So you do have to be cautious. Make sure you have passwords on your Wi-Fi. Make sure, you're not using anything that isn't protected, at least by a password to have access to it.
Let's talk a little bit about good password safety. I want to take a quick look at this graphic. I really like this. So in terms of password safety, on the next slide, you're going to see this visual that shows the impact not only on the number of characters you use in your password or your passphrase, but the use of the upper and lower case keys, the symbols, the numbers, how that really affects the time it takes a hacker to brute force your password. So note the purple boxes there. If you notice, even with using numbers and symbols and upper and lower case, that can be instantly hacked, really based on how many characters you use. So, even in the red, hacks can be done almost instantaneously. I mean, I think you've got, 25 seconds, even for 7 characters using upper and lower case. Also notice that around the 10 character mark, as long as you're using uppers and lowers, characters that have symbols and numbers as well, that brute force attack really becomes a lot more difficult for a hacker.
And guys, this is really important for you to like listen up on right now because we're going to be forcing you guys to change your password soon. We're going to ask that right now we have a minimum of 8 characters for staff and students. We're not changing students at all. Because as I've told the kids over the years, like, so somebody gets into your school account, what are they going to do? More IXL math homework for you? Like there's no information to steal. They don't have any confidential information tied to their school email accounts, just schoolwork. However, you might have student records tied to your account by accessing SharePoint or other places or grade books, or you might have like you logged into your banking account or credit card information. So yours is actually more important to be better protected from a hacker. So we're today, this afternoon, we're going to change a setting in Google to force you to have a stronger password. And what we're looking for, the requirements, is that it has to be at least 10 characters so that it would take 5 years to crack into your email address. But also it has to have at least numbers, uppercase letters, and symbols in it, okay? If you're not gonna have that in a 10-character one, you could have a 16-character one with just lowercase letters and numbers and be very well protected. And that is known as a passphrase. So one of the things we talk about is like you could have a sentence like, I think Thor is beautiful. And that could be long enough to be my password. And if I include capital letters and the period in there or an exclamation point, it's even stronger. So it could be just a sentence without any spaces. Would be a great password for Google. The longer it is, the less variety you have to have in the passphrase itself. The shorter it is, the more complexity you have to have in your characters, okay? But it has to have at least 10, and it has to have a variety of things. But what I mean by that is that it has to be sentences, it has to have upper and lowercase letters, and it can have like repetitive stuff in it. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, D, E, like that would not be a good password. Don't use repeated characters like 999, 111, A. Don't use your private or personal information, like your birthday, because I know some of you guys are using that, or your anniversary. Don't use your street address. Don't, like, I would never use Pearl Jam or Thor as my password. And don't use the same passwords for everything. So like I have passwords that I use for like those have one password. There are school passwords that I'm just testing. Maybe those will be a different password. My personal banking password is a totally unique password. My credit card, each credit card I have has a very unique password for each one, because if they get one, I don't want them to get the other ones. So that's why it's important to have some variety in your passwords, and don't have the same password for everything. But you could have different categories of passwords. So we have some good password examples here. And I teach this technique to the kids a lot. So I take like a phrase or some hard vocab, like SAT level vocab words, like this is abysmal skills. And I've changed some of the letters to symbols or uppercase or numbers. This is actually, I've used my dyslexia for this one. This is the dichotomy of man, because I flipped the W from an M because my dyslexia, and the 3 is a dyslexic E. Use a 0 instead of an O, and throw in a middle uppercase letter somewhere in the middle, not just at the beginning. This one is Millennium Force. I don't know if you can see that one. But if, again, the longer it is, the less complex it has to be. So you could do something like I love peanut butter and jelly. Or I have Bieber fever. I really don't, but I like to use that with the kids at school. Jody, or somebody asked, sorry, are there recommended password storage apps or tools? There are some out there. I don't recommend paying for anything, frankly. I know there's one called LastPass that a few people I know have used over the years, but it's like something like $25 a year to protect your passwords. And they even have a guarantee on it so that if you do get hacked, they'll pay for something, I don't know. I just keep a list, and we're going to show you how to keep track of a list today. And I actually do this. Like Patty has seen, Mr. Nat has seen my list because she's my backup in case I get hit by a bus. She knows where to find my list. My list is like 16 pages long, size 8 font, like it's crazy. Let's look up some bad passwords first. These are all bad passwords. Why? Because they're too easy and too obvious to guess, for me at least. Pearl Jam, again, it's on my license plate. Why would I put it as my password? That's crazy. Or again, my date of birth. Don't do that. That's something somebody who knows a little bit about you could look up on the internet. So anything like this is a bad idea. If you, and frankly, I know some of you guys have a password like this. You're going to have to change it, okay? So just be prepared for that. It has to be a little more complex to be safe. Some safety tips. Sorry if I'm talking over you, Sepsi, go ahead.
That's okay. A lot of these you've covered. I mean, number one is you want to make sure that you don't write these down and put them near your computer. On the next slide, we'll talk
on a Post-it. Yeah, on a Post-it note,
on
like
yeah,
on your
any sort of paper.
I've seen that.
Now,
now for my mom, like she actually has a physical password list. That is fine. But don't keep it like on your computer. She has hers in a specific like ringed notebook in a specific drawer in her house. And that's where we keep it because I'm in charge of her passwords. And it's okay to write it down on paper, but make sure that you have a backup in case, again, there's a fire. What if you're going to be at work or home and it's not in that same place. So just have something that's a little more portable.
Sally did mention, not using the same password for all of your accounts. Also on your phones, make sure that, whether you've got a password that you type in or it's, scanning your face or scanning your fingerprint, make sure there is a way that your phone does get locked because so many of us access all of our work life info on our phones as well.
Yeah. And it's something small, but don't let people look at your keyboard when you're typing a password. Even if I have a kid standing next to me, I'm like, could you turn your head? Like, it's okay to ask them to turn their head and don't type it in until they turn their head. That's the polite thing to do. Again, it's okay to keep a list. I keep a list in in Microsoft Word. But I have it I have it saved in my OneDrive account, so I could access it from my phone, from any device I have. I recommend something cloud-based. I keep my mom's passwords in my personal Google Keep account so that they're all there. And actually, that's where I keep all my streaming media because I'm always like having to retype in my Netflix password and I can't remember it because I made it really hard. But the trick for this, because you want to think like a hacker sometimes. What if you get spyware on your computer and you have a document on your computer that has a list of all your passwords and logins? You don't want the spyware to find that list, basically. So it's important that you don't put the word login or password or username anywhere in the document, but you could still have a master list. So what I do, and I have my fake example here, and this is based on my real one, but I've changed all my passwords to blah, blah. So it's based on real life, but it's not real life. So for instance, like my GameStop here, I have just my username and my password. My Google Docs, my username, my password. If there was a link or a pin or something like that, I would just type it afterwards. Or if there was some security questions, I just put the tool username / password. And I know what it is, but the words password or username are not anywhere in this document. And that's actually really important. And the trick for this is to make sure you know what the name of the file is, because you can't put that as the name of the file either. Don't say password list for Sally. I call mine something like hush hush stuff or something stupid that, again, you know what it is, but no one else will know what it is. And again, you want it to be protected.
So quickly, yeah, we're almost there. Quickly, a couple actionable steps. Step one on the next slide, we're going to ask you guys sometime today to update your computer. So it's either going to be the Windows update, the Apple update, also to do your manufacturer update. So whether you've got a Lenovo, an Apple, a Dell, or an HP, if you go into your start menu, those are going to have standalone update apps that are going to do things like do a BIOS update or do certain updates that the Windows update might not handle. And obviously,
and actually, I'm going to show you quickly how to do that right now. So here, I'm going to show you down here how to do it. On my computer here, since most of you guys at the upper school have a Lenovo computer, one of the ways you could go to this, there might be under the Lenovo section of your computer, maybe. Oh, sorry, this isn't a Lenovo computer. This is a Dell computer. So if I go to my Dell folder here, there's Dell updates. If you have a Lenovo computer, it'll be under the Lenovo folder on your program list here. And you would just click on it. And there, sometimes it's called Lenovo Vantage. Those are the best two ways to do it, to get those type of updates. HP is the same thing. You're just going to look for your manufacturer name from your start button here and look for your folder. And it should say something like Lenovo update, Dell update. When you click that, it'll open a program on your computer. It's over here. And it will say, hey, do you want to check for updates? You would just hit check, and it will do things like tell you your serial number and the last time it was checked and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just checked mine yesterday, so I'm good. But we did want to make sure that you guys knew how to do that. We do that for you when during the summer when we update your computers or set up a new computer for you, but it will keep your drivers on your computer updated. Those are things like your wireless card or your screen or the software that runs all the mini programs behind the scenes on your computer. Some of them will actually have you restart your computer, and that's okay. Let it do it if you can. If you can't, then make sure you do it the next time that you check for updates on your computer. But then after you do that, please make sure you restart your computer when you're done. Sometimes it'll tell you you have to restart your computer multiple times. That's okay, to catch you up. That's a good thing to do. Then step two would the second actionable step is once we all get back into the building, whenever that is, we are going to force you to change your computer or your Microsoft password. However, it won't really change until you're actually back touching our networks physically, either through a wire or wireless once you're in the building. So you do have to be back in the building once we do a password reset for that. So we're going to wait, but I will send you an email reminding you to do that. If you have a Chromebook or you only have an email account, then you don't have to worry about this step. This is only for people who have a Windows computer or a Mac laptop.
So within the next 2 weeks, as Sally had talked about earlier, we're going to have you guys change your Google password. And we talked about it, 10-character minimum, follow all the rules of good passwords. Again, you're going to get a copy of this presentation. Going forward, we're going to be asking you guys to do that once a year.
Now, and if you, just full disclosure though, if you already have a super strong password that's pretty complex and it's going to take at least 5 years to crack right now, it might not force you to change it right now because you're already in good shape. But I'm going to say about 75% of the staff, we just looked at the report yesterday, about 75% of the staff does not have a strong password. So that is why we're going to, most of you guys will have to reset your password. Now, your Microsoft password and your Google password could be the same. If you decide to make them the same, that's fine. But they could also be different. And that's totally up to you. I just want to make sure that, but they're going to be reset at different times though. So just be aware of that. And then what we're going to do is we're setting a timer on that password, the password rules in Google. So every January, sometime in January, it's going to ask you to change it again next January and the January after that going forward. So January is the time for new things, and we're going to start the year with new passwords as well. Okay. For, just so you know, for the tech staff, we've decided that the tech staff is going to change their Google password every 90 days. Just because we have more access to the admin systems and some other stuff. So, but most of the regular staff is going to be once a year. The tech staff will change every 90 days. So just be aware of that. To create, if you have not done this already, create or update your password list files. So remember, don't use the word password, login, or username in whatever file. And it could be a Google Keep. It could be an Apple, a memo. If you want to do it on your phone, it could be in OneNote. It could be in Microsoft Word. It could be a Google Doc. It could be a spreadsheet. It could be whatever kind of format you want to be a master list of all your logins and passwords. Just don't use the word password, login, or username in there. And we do recommend something cloud-based so that you could access it from any device you log into. Okay. We're going to ask that you be on the lookout for a phishing email, emails in particular. So Jim Buplan, who's our IT manager, is actually looking for a service for us to allow us, the tech department, to send out phishing scams to see if you guys are being vigilant. So we're going to be doing some phishing tests over the next 6 months at least to make sure, to see who's kind of falling for the phishing scams and who's not. Okay, so we want you to be vigilant. If you're not sure, ask. The only people will know that you fell for a phishing scam will be me, Sepsi, and Jim. So no, you will not be penalized for this, but it might require you to do some training if you are falling for the phishing scams. We are also looking to make sure we're gonna do a test of the high school students as well after I do my tech safety unit with the 9th graders, because all the older high school kids have actually gone through the tech safety unit. So we want to make sure that they're making good decisions as well. And this is a way for us to do some spot test with them. So I want you to, we're not going to tell you about when exactly or what email it's going to be, but I want you to make sure to let you know we're going to be doing some sort of phishing test, at least one, maybe multiple ones throughout the last 6 months of the school year.
And finally, guys, please ask for help if you have, a question about anything you're not sure. Let Sally, myself, Murata, Jim, or Sophia know, and we'll be able to help you out.
Yeah, and we've had some great people do this. Like I know a few people just sent me an email before break because they got something that looked weird. They had a link to fill out information about a student and they didn't know the person who sent it. But so they asked, and it turned out to be one of the school psychologists from Nordonia was doing a survey about a student. So yeah, make sure to ask if you're not sure. I know Colleen Holtz, thank you for always sending me screenshots of stuff so I could say, hey, no, is this shady or is this not shady? Those are good things to do. Like, please send it to me. Again, Sepsi, Murata, Jim Buplan, or Sophia, and we'll be glad to help you. Having a second pair of eyes on many of these things is super helpful. And I've even sent some stuff to Sepsi over the years to say, what do you think of this? So no shame involved. It's better to ask than to fall for shenanigans. Okay. Do we have any questions about any of this? This was a lot. And normally it takes me 6 weeks to go through all this with the kids. So we did it in 90 minutes. So it was a lot of information. Feel free to ask questions if you're not sure.
Sally, is there a best way to share sketchy emails with you, would you prefer a screenshot, or does forwarding, like, it doesn't engage with it, right?
Yeah, you want to really take a screenshot. So take, there's most of your computers will have that PRTSC button. It's usually near the space bar. If you do that, that's the the screenshot button, and you just go to your email and paste, and it will copy the whole thing, because that's actually forwarding me a picture instead of the actual email that might be shady. So that's always a good thing to do. But yeah, even if you want to take a picture with your phone of your computer screen and send that to me, that's fine too.
Sally,
I got a question. Should we update our phones? Yes. So if you have a phone on the school network, please make sure you're doing the updates on that as well, because when you're doing updates on your phone, it will also have the virus protection from Google or from Samsung or from whoever the vendor is for that device. You could also get a third-party antivirus software on a phone or tablet as well. I think it's a little overkill because most of the time phones are a little safer than computers, because you can't install stuff directly from a website. They have to be approved by the App Store to get installed. So they're slightly safer, but you could do that if you want, but make sure they're updated so they're well protected. Any other questions? And I see Kim said that the SAS department will send an email to let them know if there's going to be any online questionnaires coming from Nordonia, just so you're aware that it's coming. Yeah, and somebody asked, when you mentioned sharing the Microsoft password, that is your network password. So it's actually connecting to the Microsoft 365 services in the cloud. So yes, your network password and your Microsoft password are the same thing. How do you know if you have more than one antivirus program? They will be on your app list on your computer. So you could go through your programs on your computer and see if you have any. And if you see, sometimes when you get a new computer, it'll come preloaded with like a 90-day version of McAfee or a 90-day version of Norton. I usually uninstall those on all of the school computers because I find them to be freaking annoying. And I don't want you to have to deal with it at all. So I usually uninstall those. But if you have a home computer, you might have to uninstall it yourself, or you have to pay to keep the service. I usually just rely on Microsoft Security Essentials. Now, on a home computer, if you're doing risky behavior, because we're all adults here, if you're doing a slightly riskier behavior, and that includes like pornography, gambling, anything like that, I would have a third-party antivirus software just to make sure that you're truly protected against the shadier sides of life. But if you're not doing any of that on your computer, then you should be fine with something like Microsoft Security Essentials or Apple operating system.
Someone above did mention recommending saving sites or saving passwords to a site. Really what you're saving to is Chrome. So, as long as you're careful with not using a public computer, or making sure that you log out of your computer, or that on your phone, you've got something like a password protection, set up, that would be fine.
Yeah, I save all my passwords to Google because I literally have hundreds and hundreds of passwords, and sometimes they're all different. So yeah, thank God for that. And if I ever, like, I'm signing up for a new service and then there's an option to sign in with Google, I always do that, because that way I don't even have a password for that service. I'm just signing in through Google's, through the back door, which is a little safer.
So last one that I see is in terms of updates on your phone. For something like an iPhone, you want to go to your settings, and then you would do an update through there. And I'm guessing it's very similar with an Android phone. And I think it's on the Android, you would swipe down from the top and you can do updates easily through there.
Yeah. And the reason why we said we're going to change the setting, the password settings in Google today. However, it might take 2 weeks before it asks you to change it, because usually you have to sign into Google Chrome at least once every 2 weeks to make sure it's still you. And it's not going to might not ask you to change it immediately. So we're going to do that. We're going to work on that this afternoon. And so some of you guys might start seeing that today, especially if it's been a while since you've signed into Google. But If you just signed in this morning, because it's been 2 weeks, then it'll probably be 2 weeks before it'll ask you to change it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. If you think of any other questions, feel free to reach out to anybody in the tech department. And we appreciate your attendance and interaction today. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.